is we are on verse 9, and before that, righteousness is on the decline. I manifest myself and establish dharma to bring back the right. And so now, verse 9, which we read before, he says that whoever knows my birth and activities, are, and he who knows them in reality, tatvataha, he knows them in reality, the true light. So his birth is divine, quality, his actions are divine. Naturally, if you have to understand something divine, you yourself will. So he says that the people who understand my birth and activity are not born again. So, sir, can we start with verse 4.3 if we have understood this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Namaste. Vitaraga Bhayakrodha Manmaya Mam Upashitaha Bahavo Jnana Tapasa Puta Madbhavam Agataha.
Right. So he says that Vita Raga Bhaya Krodha, which he had used in chapter 4 of the Siddha Prajna. So again, he says that people who are free of these unyogic qualities of attachment, hey, you're attached to something, then you have the fear of losing it, or you have krodha, anger, which is in the way if there is some obstruction. So he says when people are free of these unyogic qualities, naturally they are absorbed in me, they take refuge in me, and then they come to me. They are purified by this and they come to me. So the same thing is kind of stressed that if you want to know God, then you have to be free of these unyogic qualities. You have to take refuge in Him. You have to be absorbed in Him. You have to basically go beyond beyond the mind and intellect. So clear?
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll do 4.11.
11. Ye yathamam prapadyante tans tathaiva bhajamyaham mama vartmanu vartante manushya partha sarvashaha.
So he says that my path is one, but people move on my path in different ways. So basically, there is freedom. You can pursue something which is very divine. You can pursue something which is materialistic, and you will be rewarded accordingly. So it's fair. You have the freedom to pursue what you want. If your commitment is going to be the driving force, what is it that you want in life that will drive you? So we have the freedom, and we will be rewarded. Whatever we want, we will be rewarded. So any questions? We can. So these verses are not very difficult to understand, but we will come to the crux of this chapter in the next few verses about karma, vikarma, and akarma. What is action and what is inaction? So if we don't have any questions, then maybe we can, or we can discuss this. We are free.
The question, in one of the villages in our district, I used to go there because we were setting up a new plant in that village. And that village was notorious because of one criminal. He was a criminal there, and he used to stay there. And he was notorious as a smuggler, actually. But he he was a devotee of Lord Shiva. And once there was the Shikhar, or what they call the Shikhar, the apex of the temple.
Okay.
They put a golden crown there, a golden
Yeah.
dome, a small dome. So our man said that I will have the honor of climbing up on the roof and put that golden crown. And because he was such a strong person, everyone said, okay, go ahead. So he climbed up to put the golden dome, and unfortunately he fell down and he broke both his legs, and both the legs had to be amputated. So
Oh.
he became a completely handicapped person. He had to be lifted and carried everywhere. And then, because in the village, the roads were not such that a wheelchair could go. So, of course, he had a lot of money and everything. So he managed to keep people. But then people used to say that his arrogance has been rewarded by Lord Shiva in this way. He was being arrogant that I will put the dome, though he, though he did not have the skill of climbing and balancing himself, but he was very arrogant, and that's what people used to say, that his arrogance has been rewarded in this unfortunate fashion.
Yeah.
So
Very.
that came ye athamam prapadyante.
As you, yeah,
So social.
sad. Yeah, but this is the fact of life. You can't escape your karma. You are rewarded. True, sir. So you can, your motives, your commitments can be of a lower order or a higher order. Okay. So we'll read the verse 4.12.
काङ्क्षन्तः कर्मणां सिद्धिं यजन्त इह देवताः क्षिप्रं हि मानुषे लोके सिद्धिर्भवति कर्मजा.
So you can aspire for success and you will be rewarded. You are rewarded immediately in this world or soon in this world. They say using the word shipram quickly. But a person who wants material things may get success, but he may not necessarily get happiness. Success is easy to come by, but happiness may not be easy to come by. So again, the same thing. There could be a difference between good and spiritual. Good qualities maybe, we want to do good in the world, but spiritual qualities are somebody who's totally disinterested. He does his work because he has to do it, because it's his duty. There is no other ulterior motive or desire for result or any other kind of desire. So this is what we are also told, that you can get success easily, but you may not get a spiritual upliftment.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
Yeah.
because so let's take that there are three stages in terms of progress. So one is where there is negativity. Let's say we call it tamas.
Yeah.
Right? So we work and move from tamas or negativity to positivity, which is let's say sattva. But that's like you in hell, you move to heaven, but you're not reached. Finally, you transcend both tamas and sattva, and you reach a place where you're neither positive nor negative, just tatastha.
Yeah.
So good is an intermediate stage,
Yeah.
but there is still a long way to go.
True. The spiritual path is important. The inner development is important. This is what this whole chapter is aiming at. Okay, so the next verse about Chaturvarnya. Chaturvarnya.
चातुर्वर्ण्यं मया सृष्टं गुणकर्म विभागशः तस्य कर्तारमपि मां विद्धि अकर्तारम् अव्ययम्.
So this universe is made up of men, women, there is plants, animals, everything. And naturally, there has to be some order. There has to be some division of labor so that things move about organized manner. So that's why he says that I have made this fourfold caste, and but this caste, fourfold caste, moves according. Prakriti is moving it. I don't do anything. Prakriti is my product, and Prakriti is kind of doing it. So boss is there, but Prakriti does the work. And whenever there is any kind of gadbad or any kind of confusion, when the boss comes, he says, I'm born. Whenever dharma, I'm born, and then I set everything in order. But as of now, the Prakriti manages this, and everything is divided according to the qualities of Prakriti, according to the action, and these four castes are there. So there is good division of labor. If it functions according to their qualities and tendencies and moves in an organized manner, then there will be peace. So he says, I don't do anything. So people does create a controversy before caste, but shouldn't be any. Some people are intellectual, some are used to hard physical labor, some are administrators. Well, each according to his own capacity and capability does. And also that we shouldn't fight too much. See, we are naturally born into this kind of an order. So fighting and going against it, grumbling too much may not necessarily help. I don't know what would be everybody's views. The Mahabharata gives stories about butchers doing their work, but doing it in a devoted manner, about so many other kind of professions, like the kings are there, the laborers are there, all kinds of people are described. And even Arjun is told that you are a Kshatriya, you do your work. Don't talk about being a sannyasi and leaving the order. So I don't know, how would we look at it?
Sorry. So there is this gentleman called Mahesh Madhavan.
Sorry?
So there's a gentleman called Mahesh Madhavan. So I first met him when he was a CEO of Bacardi India. Right now, I think about 8 years later, now he's a worldwide CEO of Bacardi. And so we did an interview with him for Sattva. And so therefore I came to know, about his background, etc. So we'd gone through Wipro in the earlier days, which means Wipro was really a very integrity oriented kind of company. And I also knew somebody who was his neighbor in where he lived, and he was also saying, "I got he and his wife, absolutely sterling people." And when I met him, I also thought he was a very kind of very warm, very sensitive individual, very non-corporate types. And almost to this day, though I think a little more understanding now, but no, what is this man doing selling liquor?
Okay.
Bacardi is a liquor company. What is he doing selling liquor? But I said, but I think this verse kind of provides some little answer that maybe the way it has been ordained, right? His thing is to why should we? I mean, we are looking at liquor as an unqualified, bad kind of good or a product. Maybe it has its advantages, right? Who knows? I mean, after all, if liquor did not have a place in the world, it would not be there. God brought it in. So, what really appears at first glance and what, when you look deeper, I think God works in His own ways. And therefore, I have learned it's not good to judge anybody or anything. And each one works according to the situation. It's up to you to work towards spiritual upliftment and not to judge what you're doing and how.
True. Very true. So God is the author of these castes. He's saying that I have, created Maya Srishtam. He says, I have created this. So naturally, there has to be some wisdom, some intelligence behind this order. So I guess we should accept it. I think that is my view. So wherever we are put, we have to accept and move in a correct manner. All
See,
right.
my view is different.
Okay.
My view is different because this has become the most controversial part of Bhagavad Gita in modern times. Because first of all, we have to see how it has been put there. It does not come in the natural flow of chapter 4. Chapter 4 is actually moving in a different way, and suddenly this verse is put there. So people, I mean, it is believed that this has been an interjection. It has been put subsequently in order to give divine legitimacy to the caste system or the Varna system. To say that it is ordained or God given. Now, if it is according to guna and karma, then it cannot be based on birth because karma is in this particular life. So then there should be a mobility among the varnas. I may be born, like Karna says, that I am born as a Sutaputra. I don't know who I am. In Mahabharata itself, Karna says that I don't know who I am. Sutova Sutaputrova. Yova Kova Bhavamyam. So, Daivayattam Kule Janma. Madayattam tu Paurusham. He says that my achievements are under my control. My birth is not in my control, where I am born. So, if it is ordained, then it should be, it should allow mobility, whereas it never allowed that kind of mobility. So, that is one. And the second one is that Krishna himself was from the cowherd community, which today is classified as other backward caste, that is OBC, that is Shudra. So it is very doubtful. It is very doubtful that this verse can be actually attributed to Lord Krishna. It has been put later on to give justification and legitimacy to the caste system. And the third thing is that our constitution today has not recognized this. Though as a division of labor, I agree. Division of labor is there. But division of labor does not mean hierarchy. It means there is a horizontal division of labor. So societies which did not recognize this have gone ahead. Like Japan or China, they do not have that caste system. Among the Asian countries, they may have other hierarchies, other divisions, but they have progressed because of this kind of free mobility to people. So I think this is this is something which has been put later on.
So we can by what you say, but we still can't go back on like we have to be dedicated to work. We can't deny the fact or the concept of dedication to work. You may be wherever you are, in whatever position you are. You may be a Shudra, you may be a Kshatriya, but we will see if we can't get stuck up on certain verses. Yeah, we have our views, which is absolutely valid, and we must, clear it. So let us take it as these orders are there, and we should be dedicated to it. Even if it's a craftsman, a carpenter, a cleaner on the road. If he's dedicated to work, he progresses. Let's take it as that, because we see such things in day-to-day life. So we were often.
Can I just make a point in response to sir?
Okay.
Sir, see, I agree with you absolutely that the caste system in a hierarchical fashion is grossly injustice to the original idea. I think it originated as a horizontal classification, and it speaks about 4 different kinds of individuals, 4 different orientations of individuals, which MBTI, etc., now in the modern world are also speaking similarly, right? So I think what they are saying is कि आप अपना कर्म कीजिए. Here they are just emphasizing please work जो आप कर्म कर रहे हैं अपनी ओरिएंटेशन के हिसाब से कीजिए. So I look at the Chaturvarna as simply the 4 psychological orientations of people, right? And we work in tandem with the way we are. And at the same time adopting the principle of doing karma action, integrating the mind with that action. In fact, when we work in line with our, again in the strengths side, AI, etc., we say, work according to your strengths. So these varnas can be basically interpreted as these are our strengths. And so lot of वो ये system विकृत बहुत ज़्यादा हो गया है. It is really unfortunate. But from a utility point of view, from our perspective, right? What I read in this is to say, understand what is your orientation. Try to do your work in line with your orientation. It will be less of a burden. You'll find it much more easy to integrate your chitta with the work. And as a matter of fact, reach the stage of a karma that much more easily. That's the way I look at it.
We will all have our different viewpoints, but I think these are not the verses where we should pause. We should pause some other verses which will bring light to these verses. So even I did a lot of thinking on it, but what he means is that carry on your work with dedication wherever you are. You may be a poor man, a rich man, a king, a laborer, wherever you are, carry on your work with dedication. So we'll go to the next verses, and all these verses will become clearer.
Is Ashaji, that it is this kind of a concept which later on resulted in Manu Smriti creating yet another category called Atishudra outside the Chaturvarna system, Atishudra. And that one device of creating Atishudras has wrought havoc in our mind as well as in our country and in our society, because these Atishudras were completely neglected, completely outcast, and they were therefore they found solace, they found relief, solace, and some kind of accommodation in other religions which did not recognize the Chaturvarna. So, a Sufi saint comes and tells an Atishudra, why are you sitting there hungry? Come here, eat from my plate, eat from my plate. Now, definitely, it is an act of great charity, but at the same time, he is bound to be oriented towards that but Sufi saint. So this is how things have changed. So therefore, we have to take into account what kind of impact it has had socially also. I accept. There are other verses which talk about dedication and devotion. Yeah, and those are there in chapter 3 also. So there is no denying that. Absolutely no denying what you are saying and Sunilji is saying about working with one's orientation and devotion.
Also, then he's also saying whenever there is a dharma, then I manifest myself. So probably this is a period of chaos, a dharma, and he has come to establish dharma and bring in the Bhagavad Gita and say work without looking for the result. Anyway, we can look at it in various ways. So, sir, you decide. Shall we move on? Okay.
नमं कर्माणि लिम्पन्ते न मे कर्मफले स्पृहा इति मां योऽभिजानाति कर्मभिर्न स बध्यते.
Yeah. So here Krishna says that I have no craving for the fruit of action, and actions do not taint me. And even he who knows thus knows me in reality is not bound by actions. So the thing is that act again. We come to the same point: act without looking for the fruit, without looking too much for the results. You do your duty; the results will come. And the one who functions in this way, continuously thinking of God and not thinking of the result, will not be bound. He said he will not be bound by the good or the bad of his actions. So every action has a reaction, but if you are not too much interested in the reaction, of course, the path has to be good, and you put your mind on God, do your act as per required, then you are free. Yeah.
ज्ञात्वा कृतं कर्म पूर्वैरपि मुमुक्षुभिः कुरु कर्मैव तस्मात् त्वं पूर्वैः पूर्वतरं कृतम्.
So he says the ancients also knew this. They understood this philosophy that karma is the order of the day and that we must do karma. And how should we do karma? With disinterestedness. Do your duty to the best of your capacity, but do not be interested in the results. It will give you joy. And so he says, you also should perform actions as the ancients performed. The ancient seekers after liberation. He uses the word mumuksh. When we work in that fashion, it leads us to the highest. I think this is what we must believe in, and this is how we must function. Keep your mind on the work. Go on improving yourself through work. There is no limit to how much you can improve yourself. And work is the ladder. Go on improving your work. That should be your consideration and nothing.
किं कर्म किमकर्मेति कवयोऽप्यत्र मोहिताः तत्ते कर्म प्रवक्ष्यामि यज्ञात्वा मोक्षसे शुभात्.
So he says, what is karma and what is akarma?
It is mokshase ashubhat.
Yeah. He says, what is karma and what is akarma? So even the wise are confused or perplexed about this. And he says, now today I shall tell you. After knowing that, you will be free from all ashubh, inauspicious or evil effects. Right? So now what is it that he's going to tell Arjun? We will read the next verse and then we'll discuss that.
कर्मणो यपि बोद्धव्यं च विकर्मणः अकर्मणश्च बोद्धव्यं गहना कर्मणो गतिः.
So he says you should know about karma, you should know about akarma, you should know about vikarma. And he says that mysterious are the ways of action. Now, this I think is Vinoba Bhave's favorite verse in the whole Gita because he has written so much about this. So, so now we can discuss this. What is karma? What is and what is vikarma? These three terms. And yeah. So, what is karma? The actions we do, right? What is akarma? What? So, actually, if we can, sir, we read the next verse. We will discuss.
कर्मण्यकर्मयः पश्येद् अकर्मणि च कर्मयः स बुद्धिमान् मनुष्येषु सयुक्तः कृत्स्नकर्मकृत्.
Right. He who sees inaction and action and inaction is wise among men. He is a yogi who has performed all action. So now what is action? What is inaction? How do we see action and inaction and inaction and action? So now we can share. Do you want me to explain first or do you want to share? What are your thoughts on? Sir, would you like to say something to sir?
I can see that when we are not performing an action, still the things are going to move according to their own laws. So in that sense, we are by not intervening, by not intervening and by allowing things to happen themselves in their own way, I am actually helping things to move. So in a way, I am like a catalyst, you might say. So if my son is playing and I don't stop him from playing, I don't intervene, I don't tell him anything, but I am just sitting there. Then he feels that I am supporting him, I am protecting him. So in that sense, I am acting. So I am not acting.
Right.
I'm just sitting there doing nothing. But he feels that way. So in that way, in my inaction, there is an action.
Okay. Okay, sir. Good. We'll conclude this. Any other thoughts? Would you like to share now on this? Or maybe Sunilji, you, because Mahindra sir's voice is not okay. Sunil,
Oh.
would you want to say something? No. Okay.
Always and ever. Not ask me. No.
Sorry.
Actually, आप पहले explain कर दीजिए. I think that will set the context and then we can respond.
Important verses which are used in the Bhagavad Gita: karma, vikarma, and akarma. Karma is a physical action we do. But just by doing physical action by itself is kind of inert. You know, I pick up a pencil. Okay, I put it down. Or I blink, I walk, I talk, I do so many actions in the day. Now, this is one part. Now, what is that vikarma? Vikarma in the Bhagavad Gita and all the translations, it says prohibited karma. Karma which should not be done. But Vinoba Bhave has a different meaning. I will explain that. And then it will lead to a karma. Now, a karma, sir said, when you're not interfering, a state of no action, but you're helping. So now let us look at it this way. I do an action. Vinoba says that vikarma can be used in three ways. The prefix vi. Vi as in opposite, vi as in special, vi as in different type. So he says he is going to use vikarma as a special action. Now, when I do an action, what is my special thing in that action, which is going to make it a karma? For example, sir, I can take your example, or I can take another example. If somebody is very angry with us and is very harsh to us, and goes on saying things which are harsh and which are causing us pain, but I keep silent and I just keep silent and I don't react at all. I don't respond at all. Now, what would happen is that I have done a special karma in my mind. I have kind of been wrong. Now, I have the harsh reaction, right? And then what has happened is I have not reacted, but my non-reaction, which is inaction, as of, on the face of it, it looks like inaction, but it could have prevented a violent action from the opposite person. Suppose I had reacted, that person would have reacted more and it could have followed. So Vinoba says, and I only go by that vikarma is a special karma. Whenever you're doing a karma, there are a lot of desires, wrong things, or a lot of other thoughts which are going to come in your mind. Right? Now, those have to be purified. Your mind has to be purified. And when you purify your mind and then you do your action, that action has no reaction or no consequence. That is a karma. It's kind of finished, it's burned. Then you are free. So every action which you do has to be done with so much of awareness of the mind, and then the mental action to purify the mind has to go along. That mental purification is called vikarma. So when I give something, like suppose I give you a present, and my mind is, you gave me so little and I'm giving you so much. So that's not a pure thought in my mind. But I give you a present with a lot of love and with a lot of, like an offering. So my mind is pure. And then whatever is the reaction doesn't bother me. Like if I'm looking to the sick in the hospital or in my house, I have a sick person and I look after that person with a lot of dedication, or I look at a person with a burden. Now that burden causes a problem in my mind. The action will create a reaction because that action will not be pure. But if I do it out of service, out of dedication, then my mind is pure and the resulting reaction doesn't bother me. I have done my bit. It's a karma. I am free. There is no action. So the one who sees action in action and the one who sees inaction in action. I'm doing the act, but I'm doing it with so much of purity that there is no reaction to it. And I do the inaction, like don't respond to your anger. That inaction is actually an action, but it still frees me. So we have to really think about it. And Vinoba goes on saying that this is so poetic, and he writes verses after verses. And I have also done a lot of thinking on these two verses, and it makes a lot of sense.
So in Taoism, also there is a lot of emphasis given on this principle: action in inaction and inaction in action. Almost a parallel to this and Acharya Vinoba Bhave's interpretation. I mean, it's like they're saying that you keep doing if you're kind of watering something, trying to go grass. You keep putting effort, but eventually it's a spring comes and the grass grows under your feet. So you do your bit, which is as per your inner nature, as per your gunas, you keep doing your bit, and then the other hundreds of thousands of variables will have an impact, and when the time is right, that will bear a certain result. It has to result. So you've done something and आप निर्लिप्त रहे उससे, since कि आपने बिना किसी क्या कहे चित्त वृत्तियों के बिना आपने चीज किया, उस कर्म के साथ एक होके, and it has left you untouched, right? And results का आपके, in any case you're not involved with it. Result will come from Srishti.
Yeah.
Right?
Also,
So
we see that this verse comes after this four orders, Chaturvarnya system. So you have to kind of train your mind to do the work. There should be no kind of what you say. You shouldn't go against the work you're doing. There should be no resistance. You go on. You have been told to do something. Like at the institute, Dr. Saab would sometime, the ones who were going since long, sometimes he would tell us some kind of menial job. Like one day he told me, go and check all the bathrooms, go and check if all the flushes are working. Now I went to each and every bathroom. I went now going to the bathrooms, check, and there are many, many, many toilets there in the institute. Going everywhere, checking, and then he said, come back and tell me whether everything is fine. So I went back and I told him, yeah, everything is fine. This is not working in this bathroom. Now I can think, what is this? Why has he given me this kind of work? No, but then I say, no, my teacher has given me this work. I must do it with all dedication and with my whole interest. I must report. Now, when I have that kind of purity in my mind, then that action is nullified. So, the same thing when you are born as a butcher, or now we are not justifying, sir, but I'm just saying that very often we are born into certain institutions. We are born, we have a place in society. I may be a daughter, I may be a daughter in law, I may be a clerk in the office, and I may feel that I must just carry out my work. It's my work. At that moment, I have to keep my mind pure, and then I'm freed from work. So if I apply this in day-to-day life, that I do my bit, then I'm free. And also he says that every time doing a physical action is not necessary. I may keep quiet. I don't have to express myself. Sometimes by being silent, by doing my work with dedication, that like work speaks. Okay, so it's like that. It's so the inaction part is that I don't have to do a physical action all the time. My actions, my deeds will speak for themselves. So, okay, so are we clear or do we have to discuss or anybody?
Or as we were saying earlier also, that if I perform the task without attachment,
Hmm.
then it doesn't stick in my mind.
Right.
Name karmani limpanti, as he
Yeah.
has said, limpanti.
Yeah.
So then I become free. So I have done the act, but I have still remained free. In that sense, it is a akarma within
Ab-
the karma. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's and so now in this verse, he is going to give us certain kind of vikarmas to purify the mind. You see, that vikarma part is very important. What are the actions I do to purify my mind?
Hmm.
So, go to verse 19. Nobody else has to say.
यस्य सर्वे समारंभाः कामसङ्कल्पवर्जिताः ज्ञानाग्निदग्धकर्माणं तमाहुः पंडितं बुधाः.
Yeah. So it says that the wise individual, uh, okay, he who sees, sorry, I'll just read the, even the wise call him a whose undertakings are free from desire and sankalpa, whose actions are burnt up by the fire of wisdom. So a wise individual is one who does not entertain or encourage desires. And he does not have a kind of a determination that I have to achieve material things. His purpose is totally different. He has to do the job, the results will come. He has that faith that things will happen. So, yeah, that's all.
त्यक्त्वा कर्मफलासङ्गं नित्यतृप्तो निराश्रयः कर्मण्यभिप्रवृत्तोऽपि नैव किञ्चित् करोति सः.
Yeah. He who has totally given up attachment to actions and their fruit no longer depends on anything in the world and is ever content, does nothing at all, though engaged in action. So
This is a
when
beautiful. This is a beautiful verse.
yes, so
Very nice.
it is beautiful, yeah.
Yeah.
Sunilji, what you were saying that you do the action and there are other factors working on it. Now, when you allow those other factors, or sir, like you said that you don't interfere. So when you allow the other factors to work, what happens? My I sense reduces. I don't interfere. I allow God to take over. Very often we were given this example of two little boys and they had got eggs, okay, chicken eggs, real eggs. And one of the boys, he kept it and he kept it under grass and he left it because he asked his parents after how many days will the egg hatch. So his parents told him after so and so many days. And the other child every day would go and see, has the egg hatched? Has the egg hatched? and his egg never hatched. So we just have to allow things to happen. We interfere too much, we poke into everything, and so things don't manifest. So that I sense that I do a job and I leave it, the results will come. Like a farmer, he puts a seed in the soil and then he has to wait for the other factors to work upon it. He can't dig the earth every day and say, is the seed germinating? Can't do that. Or like a wound, I can't open the bandage every day and see if is the wound healing. So I sense away. I do my job and the other factors will work on it. Okay, so I tyakta. What he says, tyaktava. I give up. Tyag. Tyag of the karma phala sangam. Okay. It takes time to absorb these things.
No, in many ways, really, it's a articulation of the same idea,
Yeah.
right? That you become integrated with what you are doing without these, the sort of vrittis interfering, and eventually you will, achieve the supreme,
True.
purify chitta vritti nirodha.
Yeah.
And with that kind of chitta, purified chitta, एकाग्र चित्त, निरुद्ध चित्त, आप जो करेंगे वो आपको और
Yeah.
कहाँ तक ले जाएगा. So
Path of karma yoga. True. So we can read 4.21.
निराशीर यत चित्तात्मा त्यक्त सर्व परिग्रहः चारीरं केवलं कर्म कुर्वन् नाप्नोति किल्बिषम्.
Yeah. So he says, having subdued the mind and body, having given up all objects of enjoyment, free from craving, he who performs sheer bodily action does not incur sin. So now there are many emotions he puts here. He says, nirashira. What does that mean? Without hope. So there is no, you don't put in your emotions inside, your anxieties, your fears. You simply do the work. And then the results will come. You dedicate it to God. Basically, again, this is what it means. Don't put in your emotions in the work, put your emotions in God. That faith, that love, that dedication, that devotion has to be in the work and in God and not in the results. So our feelings are misdirected. Our feelings are towards the result. Put it in the work and put it in God. So then there is no sin, there is no evil. He says that give up all possessions also. Possessions, it's like the mental possession, that things should happen this way. There is mental freedom. I'm not holding on to things. I'm not holding on to my thoughts. And I do the work with my body, but mentally I'm free from these emotions.
This idea of sin, kilbisham.
Yeah.
What is it that brings that concept here of kilbisham? That means there may be certain bodily actions which are otherwise considered as sin, but if I perform them by subduing my mind and body and giving up all objects of enjoyment, then does it mean that that bodily action can become free of sin?
So sin over here.
That means there, what I have in mind is supposing, because I have read some stories of this type, that a saint went to his devotee's place, and that devotee was a brewer of liquor or distiller of liquor.
Yeah.
So the devotee offered him as his, offering. He offered him a glass of liquor, and the saint simply drank it, and it was the devotee who became intoxicated. The saint was free, but the devotee got intoxicated. That is the story. So I was thinking whether this kind of action will not be considered sin, because that devotee has offered him with devotion, and the saint drinks it without any attachment.
So, but how can the devotee, maybe the devotee offered it with devotion, but the devotee knew that it is liquor and he's offering it to a saint.
Actually,
We
This is a true story. This is a true story.
also take it as free from sin is that free from mental torture. You see, the sin is always in the mind. Even if physically somebody gets crippled or somebody is hurt, the pain is always in the mind. There will be physical pain, but it's a mental pain which is more. So evil could also be like kind of a mental torture, a mental kind of thing. You're free from any kind of. That could be one way. There could be many other ways of looking at it.
there's another story that occurs to me maybe that might illustrate this. So apparently, so once there was a saint who came and parked himself on the other side of the river where Sri Krishna and the family was staying. And समय जो है बरसात का था and the river was in flow. So now anyway, since the saint had come, तो रुक्मिणी said कि भाई ये संत आए हैं तो हमें बिल्कुल उनको भोजन वगैरह देने जाना चाहिए, तो जरूर जाएं. बोली, लेकिन श्री कृष्ण ने बोली कि लेकिन अभी तो वेग में है नदी, तो कैसे हम कैसे नदी को पार करके उस साइड पहुंचे हम. तो श्री कृष्ण ने बोला कि अच्छा ऐसा करो, वहां नदी के तट पे पहुंच के नदी को बोलना कि यदि वो जो संत हैं वो सदा के उपवासे हैं, तो हे नदी मां आप मुझे रास्ता दीजिए. तो उन्होंने जाके बिल्कुल जैसा बोला और नदी ने रास्ता दे दिया, और वो वहां पहुंची और नेचुरली अलग अलग तरह के व्यंजन लेके गई थी, और एक राजा के यहाँ से जा रहा है तो काफी अधिक मात्रा में भी था, और अब वो संत ने बिल्कुल जो भी लाई थी सारा कुछ खा लिया. तो अब ठीक है, तो सब हो गया. वापस जाने की बात आई तो नदी अभी भी वेग में है. अब क्या करें? अब तो श्री कृष्ण से भी पूछ नहीं सकते, वो तो दूर है. तो उन्होंने उन संत से ही पूछा कि महाराज एक दुविधा है. बोलो क्या? कि देखिए आते वक्त तो हमने ऐसा एक नदी से प्रार्थना की थी, तो हमें रास्ता तो मिल गया, अब लेकिन हम जाने का कैसे करें? तो बोले कि नहीं कोई बात नहीं, जो आपने जाते वक्त आते वक्त मंत्र उसके वही जाते वक्त भी कर लो. तो बोले कि ये क्या कह रहे हैं आप, क्या कह रहे हैं? पर अब कोई और चारा नहीं था, क्योंकि जो नदी की स्थिति थी जो थी, और कोई जाने का रास्ता नहीं था. तो anyway, संत ने कहा है तो उन्होंने कहा होना तो नहीं है, पर गई और नदी से प्रार्थना की कि भैया आप अगर ये संत जो है सदा के उपवासे हैं तो आप हमें रास्ता दीजिए. और नदी ने फिर रास्ता दे दिया. अब तो ये बिल्कुल अचरज की बात थी. यानी वो वापिस पहुंची और श्री कृष्णदास गई और बोले कि देखिए ये तो बिल्कुल अजीब सी चीज हुई कि जाते वक्त चलो समझ में आया भाई, पता नहीं पहले संत ने खाया हो नहीं खाया हो, हमें क्या मालूम उनकी क्या हिस्ट्री है, तो चलो नदी ने रास्ता दे दिया. अरे लेकिन हमने तो खुद उनको खिलाया है और इतने सारे व्यंजन खिलाए हैं, और फिर नदी ने कैसे रास्ता दे दिया? तब श्री कृष्ण बोले कि देखिए आपको लगता है कि उन्होंने खाया है, पर अगर वो उपवासे हैं तो खा के भी उन्होंने नहीं खाया, उनकी इंद्रियां उसमें लिप्त नहीं थी, उन्होंने एज अ सिंपल एज अ ड्यूटी खा लिया, हमको लगा कुछ भी लगा, वो हमारी देखने की बात है। बट वो तब भी उपवासे थे, अब भी उपवासे ही हैं, बिकॉज ही इज बीन एबल टू इनवाइट a higher kind of plane. So therefore, ये खाना उनका खाना नहीं हुआ, वो अभी भी भगवान के साथ ही हैं, उनकी जो चेतना है। So I think maybe शायद this may be relevant to this.
सुंदर कहानी है ये, बहुत ही सुंदर कहानी है। और इससे मुझे और एक कहानी याद आती है। वो
आशा जी आप म्यूट में हैं।
So, shall we go on?
मुझे और एक कहानी याद आती है।
So, Sabir
वो-
bhai, I won't finish my Gita.
अच्छा ठीक है, ठीक है, ठीक है, ठीक है, ठीक है।
Sir, you're on mute, sir.
यदृच्छा लाभ संतुष्टो द्वंद्वातीतो विमत्सरः समसिद्धौ असिद्धौ च कृत्वापि न निबध्यते।
Yeah. So he says the karma yogi who is contented with whatever is not unsought is free from jealousy, has transcended all pairs of opposites like joy and grief. He's equipoised in success and failure. He is not bound by his action. So basically, we maintain a distance from what comes. Now, you don't allow anything to affect. The results can be any. Your faith in God is so firm that you have done the action, the thought is on God, and everything is fine. Whatever happens outside you does not disturb you. You're internally totally equipoised. So, whatever lab comes, you're content. You're content, you're happy with the success. Failure is not a failure to you because success is not a success to you. Everything is according to the will of God because you have totally submerged yourself, absorbed yourself in God. So, next verse we'll do, sir. Sir, you're on mute.
गतसंगस्य मुक्तस्य ज्ञानावस्थितचेतसः यज्ञाय आचरतः कर्म समग्रं प्रविलीयते।
So he says all his actions get dissolved entirely. Who is free from attachment, has no identification with the body. He's free from the feeling of mindness, whose mind is established in the knowledge of the self, who works merely for the sake of sacrifice. He's bringing in this word yagna again, which was brought in the third chapter. And in the third chapter, we said that we also heard the word loka sangraha. So everything has to be done keeping the good of everything, keeping the good of all. When he works in that kind of a fashion, then all his actions are dissolved. All, he said, the whole, all the actions are dissolved. So there is no excessive desire, there is no manipulation of things. One simply works. One is free from the opposites, like in the previous chapter, verse. And yeah, one is just doing the duty. That itself is enough. I have received so much, I must give. The concept of yajna, the concept of lokasangraha, the concept of doing good beyond myself, not identifying, not wanting personal profits, but seeing the good of everybody. 24, sir, shall we do, or do you want to say something, anybody? Sir, you're on mute, sir.
Say, do you want me to go to the next one?
As you like, sir.
No, as you say, madam.
So, if you have something to say, we are welcome here.
No.
So, I have nothing to say. I finished. We can go to the next one, sir.
Brahmarpanam Brahmahavir Brahmagnau Brahmana Hutam Brahmaiva Tena Gantavyam Brahma Karma Samadhina.
So we oblation is poured. Brahma is the oblation. Brahma is the fire. Brahma itself is a sacrificer. And so Brahma itself constitutes the act of pouring the oblation into the fire. And finally, Brahma is a goal to be reached by him who's absorbed in Brahma as the act of such sacrifice. So in short, everything is God. There is no me, there is him. So it's Brahma is the offering, Brahma is the havi, whatever you put, the ghee, the butter, everything which you put in the sacrificial fire. It is the Brahma, it is the me who's, offering it is Brahma. The one who's receiving it is Brahma. The fire is Brahma. Everything is him. Okay, so do we have anything to say on this popular verse? It's a very simple verse. It's a very beautiful verse. Everything is him. My work is him. I am him. I offer it to him. The means are him. There is nothing besides him. It's a very beautiful verse. We just have to just go deep into it. There's nothing to say about these verses. Just experience them. Total reduction of I sense. Okay. Anybody wants to think about this verse? Sir, you're on mute. Sunil ji.
I'm good.
Okay. So, sir. So you want to say something, sir? You're on mute, sir.
Nothing to add.
Nothing to add.
Nothing to add.
It's such a beautiful verse. I actually am at a loss of words. It is something which one has to just experience. How does one say anything about it? Everything is him. I think these verses goes to your eyes like everything is him. It's so beautiful. So now in the next 6 verses, we have 10 minutes. Yeah. So next 6 verses, these are Vinoba calls them vikarmas. These are techniques to purify the mind. And to really understand this verse of verse 4.24, Brahma Arpanam, Brahma Havi, Brahma Agnav. Everything is him, and these 6 verses will help us realize that everything is actually him. So these are verses where techniques to purify the mind. So maybe we can go on, and they are all yajnas. So you're on mute, sir.
Daivameva pare yajnam yogina paryupasate Brahmagnau apare yajnam yajnenaiva upajubhati.
So the work is offered to God. When you start offering work to God, you may offer it to the gods because that's how you see the world, or you may offer it to Brahma. You see the one beyond all everything. So whichever way the devotee offers, but the point is that he offers it to God. Everything is kind of a yajna, a kind of a sacrifice. Whatever I do, I offer it to God. I offer it to God, or I offer it to the divine. This is what it means. The point is that my mind has to be purified. So now a lot of techniques are given, and these techniques are different. One can adopt any technique to suit one's individual mind, individual mental makeup.
Daiva, Daiva has different meanings.
Yes.
Daiva also means destiny,
Yeah.
but here it is being interpreted as God.
Yeah.
So I don't know how Daiva can become God. The
Deva,
Daiva is all that is created by fate is something which has been created by God. So Daivam is that which is created by God, that which is in the hands of gods only.
yeah.
Yeah.
See the difference here. The difference initially, a person may not be able to see the difference. For him, the gods are everything. Like in India, we have the god of wealth, we have the sun god, the moon god, the stars. We have so many gods. For the farmer, the seasons are gods, the senses are God, the elements are God. So, like I said, it's individual. Anything which purifies your mind, let us take it that way. Point is yajna. I offer.
Yajna is also distinguished here. There are different types of yajna.
Yeah.
Yajna done for worldly enjoyment and yajna done for giving up
Yeah.
that sense of self.
But even if you do it for worldly enjoyment, you're following the path of offering, of doing something, offering something, get something in return. There are all kinds, the lower kind, like we read in the previous, you are free. You are free. Your motives can be lower motives, your motives can be higher motives. Now, but if we are walking on the path of self development, and if we are studying this and keeping the previous verse in mind where everything is God, then to realize this, these are the acts which we can do. So you're on mute, sir.
श्रोत्रादीनि इन्द्रियाणि अन्ये संयमाग्निषु जुह्वति शब्दादीन् विषयान् अन्य इन्द्रियाग्निषु जुह्वति.
So he says, offer sacrifice the senses of hearing into the fires of self-discipline. Other yogis again offer sound and other objects of perception into the fire of senses. So first the senses. The senses are the culprits. They are the windows to the external world. From them, all the stimuli come. So first you can control the organ of hearing, the sense of hearing. And then the second step is control the sensations, which is even more difficult. Once you have seen something, then the thoughts come. You hear something, then the likes, dislikes, all those kind of things come. So basically, controlling the mind, not allowing any kind of stimuli, sensations to enter the mind and take you away from the path. So the mind is in full control. You have controlled the senses and you have controlled the sensations. Of course, first the mind is controlled. So the mind, everything the work, everything the mind does, all the thoughts are offered to God. Everything is sacrificed. Does it make sense? Do you have any questions?
The first, I mean, what I understand is that first the senses are regulated,
Yeah.
and then the sensation is regulated.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is, I think, what I learned as Nishpanda Bhav from Sunil ji and Aarti ji. They taught Nishpanda Bhav. So I think this is an explanation. To me, it looks like explanation of Nishpanda Bhav.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. So I'm not saying that because I don't know if people are familiar with the technique of the institute. Absolutely bang on. Nishpanda Bhav. And Nishpanda Bhav, it has been, it's a invention of founder Sri Yogendra ji, using the subtlest of element, space, and sound to keep the mind in order.
The story of how it came. He had narrated the story of how this Nishpanda Bhav was developed because of the aircraft going above the institute.
Absolutely.
Something like that he had told us.
Yeah, Sunil ji, you can rename the story. नहीं नहीं आप बताइए आप म्यूट पे हैं
You know, the what emerged is as beautiful as the way it emerged. And the way was that so there were these aircraft, overflying the institute every almost second or third minute, and naturally they would disturb the proceedings. And since it's a education institution, there's a lot of talking and listening going on, and the aircraft were proving to be a bother. And in to most of us, we would try and find a way of blocking, like can we go to aircraft? So okay, can we have these noise blocking earphones and stuff like that, which is 99% people would work that way. But instead, what the founder question was, all right, how is it that we can utilize this to our benefit? So he realized that the sound is, because it's a plane which keeps moving, so the sound is a fading sound, or it's at least the amplitude keeps varying. So then, because of the nature of the sound, actually, since there is variation, we can put the mind to the sound, and the mind can remain interested, can track as to what the intensity of the sound is. And you can even listen to it after the sound is gone. You can listen to the absence of sound. Right. So that led to this technique of being able to meet sensations with a way of generating greater awareness rather than treating that as a nuisance. So, to me, yes, please.
It's 10:15 and we
Oh.
will I'll just add in my input on Nishpanda Bhav next time.